Hamilton, Leithauser, this side of the island album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this latest solo record from Mr. Hamilton Leithauser, singer, songwriter. You may also know him as frontman of the seminal indie band The Walkmen. And since the mid-2010s, Hamilton has also been dropping some solo albums as well, which at the time really piqued my curiosity, mostly because The Walkmen sound by the time that they were kind of wrapping up their albums was so different than their earlier sound that I didn't know which direction that Hamilton was going to go in. But in 2014, we did get his debut. Yeah, the Black Hours album, and honestly, I did appreciate from afar. It's not my favorite work of his, but I did enjoy the record's sort of very classy chamber pop and old school rock and roll sound to it. I also thought that some of his performances on tracks like Alexandra and Self-Pity were great. It was far from perfect, but I did certainly enjoy where Hamilton was going at the point. But then there was that Paul Maroon collaborative project, Dear God, and I don't know what it was about this record. I know people who love this thing, but I thought this was just so boring. Sorry. Yeah, overnight, I just kind of lessened my interest, very much so, on Hamilton's solo stuff. I thought it was going to be just another flash in the pan kind of moment for him. But for my money, I thought he really started coming into his own with this record here, his collaboration with Rostam. The I Had a Dream That You Were Mine record. I mean, honestly, I feel like this album is kind of slept on in modern indie. Not enough people are talking about this thing over here. It is just so hazy, so beautiful, and just so quaint. And his last album, The Loves of Our Life, I mean, my thoughts honestly haven't changed on it much since I gave it a review a few years ago. It's okay. Tracks like Isabella and Till Your Ship Comes In are absolutely lovely. But it did leave me craving more. Now, leading up to this thing, I mean, my hype wasn't over the hill for this thing, but I did really enjoy the singles that Hamilton was dropping. And I should say that this record, it's very different for him. Let's dive into it. This album starts off with Fist of Flowers, and instantly, this is sunny. This is real colorful stuff. And since it dropped as a single, I've just been kind of addicted to just how full of life and endearing and incredibly charming this track comes off. But more than anything, I feel like I haven't heard Hamilton this invested in something in quite some time. I mean, hearing him belt out that chorus, it just warms my heart. And I just love hearing him this passionate about a project. It just puts a big old smile on my face. And I do enjoy the sort of retro 70s singer-songwriter vibes to it. And get used to that because that's what you're going to be getting on a lot of this record. Burn the Boats, I like this track even more. As a matter of fact, for a deep cut, look no further. I mean, hearing the singles leading up to this thing, I knew I was already going to enjoy this album to some extent, but some of these deep cuts just put an even bigger smile on my face. Once again, very colorful track with almost some neo-psych influence. I love the fluttering synths and the backing vocals on this hook, which have no right being as charming as they are. Almost getting some Jens Lekman influence on this track. And for me, a guy that wants nothing to do with the spring or the summer, hell, this track's making me want to get outside. Ocean Roar is also really, really classy. This one's a little bit more laid back. I love the soulful horn section that we get here and the almost ragtime-inspired pianos. I mean, when you really break it down, a lot of these elements are things that Hamilton's done in the past. Add in his signature croon and a charisma that I haven't seen from him in some time, you have a hell of a track. Not only that, but it just makes for a lovely little lazy Sunday indie tune. Knockin' Hard is also another really great single release. If this album to this point has been a little bit too light and fluffy for you, give this track a listen. It's got a little bite to it. Hamilton's vocals on this track are A, his bluesiest, and B, his most explosive as well. And yeah, I'd argue it might be a little bit straightforward, especially compared to the rest of this record. And I would also say that it doesn't really have the same vibes as the rest of this record at all. But it's still just a really classy, heartfelt indie track all around. Also love What Do I Think? Another fantastic deep cut. Love the sort of laid-back vibes of it once again. He does it the right way, especially due to the passion that is on display here, and the swagger and the charisma once again. Especially when that big, gaudy hook rolls around. I can't help but just sing along every time. Now, I will say this, and we will get further into this momentarily, but there are some cuts on here where Hamilton breaks out these weird vocal inflections, almost Bob Dylan-esque. And here, they're fine, but we're about to see what happens when they just take over a little bit too much space on this record. Because my friends, I hate to say it, but things are about to get really cheesy over here. Like, I was listening to this record and enjoying it and saying to myself, wow, if something went wrong, this can get really, really cheesy really, really fast. And then Off the Beach comes along. This is by far the sleepiest, most phoned-in cut of the bunch. Hamilton very quickly goes from sounding like he's having a very relaxing, very peaceful, very happy Sunday to like he's getting teeth pulled very, very fast. And it's over before even barely getting started. How is this track 3 minutes? It feels like 30 seconds. A lot of the same feelings on I Was Right. I mean, what happened to the good vibes here? Instantly, this isn't filling me with life. This is sucking it out of me. And let me tell you, those vocal inflections, they're getting worse by the second. I don't know, like this album started really strong and really just had all good vibes all around. And track by track, I feel like it's getting more obvious that the reason that this album is so freaking short, it's barely 30 minutes, is because Hamilton didn't have all the ideas to flesh this record out, sadly. I mean, we were cruising for a while, but now we're stalled. And Happy Lights, I mean, Hamilton certainly has his heart into this track, but lyrically, whew, I don't know what happened here. I mean, instrumentally, it is back to that very colorful display that we got earlier, so it's not a complete wash, but I just know that the man can do a lot better. Not only that, but with a record this short, did this track really need to be here? However, I will say this. Hamilton does actually save the best track for last, the title track, This Side of the Island. The sheer ambiance of this track, the breeze flowing in the background. This track has a vibe. I love the backing vocals. I love Hamilton's very stoic performance. This is great. It's almost completely a different sound than the rest of this record, but I'm wondering, sitting here, where was this? Because this, to me, this is impressive. This is huge sounding and a great single all around. For the most part, I do enjoy this Hamilton Leithauser album once again. I have enjoyed most of his works for the most part. But this one, the sunny vibes are really refreshing to hear. I do enjoy hearing him working with a much more colorful instrumental palette as well. That's certainly very nice. I just wish, A, this album was a little bit more well thought out, and B, I wish it was a little bit longer, because the good is good, but when the bad comes around, boy, does it get cheesy. That being said, I'm feeling a light 7 on this record, but let me know what you all think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.